When you seek me with all of your heart, there you will find me. Notice that we can trust God with all of our heart. Or in other words, we can trust God with everything that we have, that He will never let us down. And if we really think about that in the time of our lives that we're in right now, no matter what it is that we're facing, no matter what's going on all around us, we can trust God. And when we place our trust in God, when we place our thoughts on knowing that we can trust Him, guess what? That's going to be what dictates our lives. But if we place our trust in God today, while we're at church or you're listening online, then that trust will kind of dwindle away if you don't allow that trust muscle to be exercised throughout the week. When is your trust often tested the most? It's not when you're at church. It's not usually when you're just at home or you're watching online. It's when you go to work. You start Monday or you go about your week. You get news about a job, you get news about a family member, you watch the news. That's when our trust muscle is really tested, and that's where we have to really exercise that trust so that the muscle of fear doesn't take over. That we can trust God and invest in that, and we'll get the best return. God is able to see us through the big and the small things of our lives. Are you willing to trust God with even the greatest, biggest things of your life? We wrestle with that as humans sometimes. And it goes on to the next point of verse 5 of Proverbs 3. Do not lean on your own understanding. When I hear this, I almost picture somebody who's working in a yard, or they've been working so hard and they're leaning on a shovel or they're leaning on a post. That thing is able to hold our weight up when we're tired. We're leaning, right? What this is saying is our own understanding is not strong enough to hold us up. That when we just lean on our own understanding, that's not going to hold us up. That we have to be willing to place the trust in the understanding on God and allow His understanding, His best interests come into our minds. So the point with this is we are not created to hold the weight of life on our own. When you think about our understanding, so often we try to take control of the situations of our life. Work situations, finances, family. We try to solve the problems of the world with COVID, or we try to solve all the things going on around us. But God's saying, don't lean on your own understanding. You have a resource. You have access. We have a direct access to the Creator of the universe that we don't have to understand it on our own. And we don't have to know all things. But He wants to build into us so that we're not leaning on our own understanding. It's a matter of we got to get rid of the I can do it myself attitude. Think about that with your kids. All kids come to a place and time in their lives. What do they say? I can do it myself. Even sometimes as our kids get older and they become adult children or adult kids that we want to help them, they say, I can do it myself, right? We do that with God. Think about that. We do that with God sometimes. Say, God, I got this one. I can figure this one out. I'll come to you when things get a little bit more severe. I'll come to you when I feel like my world is crashing down. No, God says, come to me all the time. When I think of this leaning on your own understanding, I think about how many of you have ever done the trust fall. It's the most it just makes me cringe thinking about doing a trust fall. I found this cartoon of a trust fall. It'll be up on the screen here. Look at that. And I saw this cartoon, and I want to just kind of talk through it with you. So I see this element of this trust fall kind of like God is with us. So the cartoon in the upper left corner says, love is an endless trust fall. So God's love is endless for us, and we can continually trust and fall into Him. You take turns falling and catching. That one's not so much communicating about God's love. You just got to keep trusting and catching. Guess what? We got to keep trusting God that even when we can't see where we're falling, we can't see what direction we're going, we have no idea, but God says, just keep falling. Just keep trusting. It's a continual cycle, and His love for us allows us to continue to keep trusting and keep falling into His arms. We're not created to do it on our own, but yet we're all prone to attempt to take control. Our own wisdom and our understanding will only take us so far. You might be smart. You might be intelligent. You might be strong. You might have a lot of resources. You might be able to know how to do so many things, but the truth is that is only going to take us so far. But yet when we're willing to trust in the Lord with all of our heart and not lean on our own understanding, God's going to take us that much farther. Look at verse 6. So it's trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge who? Him. In all your ways, acknowledge Him. So the best first step to victory is to let go and let God. That's the best first step of victory. They say in when people are going through recovery steps, recovery process, the best step to overcoming whatever it is that you're facing is acknowledging that you have a problem. That's the first step to getting to recovery or getting over the hump of whatever it is that you're facing. That's the best first step of being willing to acknowledge God, is to say, I got to let go and I got to let God do this. That I can't do it on my own. Do you know it's okay for us to say, I can't do it? It's okay for us to say, I can't do what I need to in life apart from God's help. That doesn't acknowledge weakness. That doesn't acknowledge failure. That acknowledges strength in the one that matters most. That God is able and He wants us to acknowledge Him. He wants us to acknowledge who He is in His goodness and His faithfulness and His love. In everything we do, we need to know God. Know God in your marriage. Know God in your relationships. Know God in your workplace. Know God in your family. Know God with your kids. Knowing God in everything that you do. Acknowledge who He is. Acknowledge when you're building something. Acknowledge Him when you are working in your yard. Acknowledge Him in all things. Because He is the one who is able and willing. And it's because when we're able to acknowledge Him, we know we can fully trust and rely on God. Notice what it also says in verse 6. He will make straight your paths. So trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge Him. And it doesn't just end. He will make straight your paths. So it requires us trusting in Him. It requires us not leaning on our own understanding. It requires us to acknowledge Him in everything. And then what? There's the promise there. He will make straight our paths. We all need direction in our lives. When we seek God for it, He will lead me. His love never fails. We know that we can trust in Him. We know that we can see Him working in our lives when we're willing to let go of control and allow Him to work in our lives. This is good news for us in light of everything that's going on around us. You know, if you turn and you look and you see different things, it's the question that oftentimes arises, who can we trust? It seems like things around us are always breaking down and there's always something new, but yet God is saying, I haven't changed. I'm still the same.